Hey guys, it's Malwalk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Premodern and another survival deck. Yes, that's right, more survival decks. There's about 3,000 different versions of this, so we got survival decks for days. So might as well jump right in, see what we're working with. All right, so this is probably the best survival variant in the format. Got answers to everything, good disruption, all that good stuff. A pretty decent mana base, mana ramp, inevitability, all this good stuff. Combo finish, that's pretty good. Um, but of course, uh, it's sort of it's hard to classify. It's kind of like a combo deck, kind of like kind of mid-rangey toolbox thing. So you can do a lot of stuff. It's all kind of all over the place, but it is really sweet. It is a pretty fun deck. Um, so instead of just trying to describe it, let's go ahead and look at the thing. All right, so what we have, again, a lot of typical survival stuff: birds of paradise, walls, elves, a lot of 1-0 stuff like Spike Feeder, Uktabi Orangutan. I mean, nothing really weird here. You have a lot of stuff that sort of, interacts with Volrath Shapeshifter very well, positively. Very synergistic with him. Obviously, Genesis is your main card advantage, like late game grinding engines. You recur all your stuff, so that's pretty sweet. Stuff like Iridescent Angel and the Chroma and stuff like that are basically to be played with, on the top of your library with Volrath Shapeshifter. Blah 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 blah. I mean, yeah, a bunch of 1-0s in a survival deck. I'm sure you see most of these. Most of these are pretty standard. Some of them are additional discard outlets like Cephalid, Ink Shrouder, or Psychotog. The former, of course, is just another way to protect your Volrath Shapeshifter, and the latter is also an additional win condition, which is kind of nice. And then, of course, we have the Survival of the Fittest, obviously the linchpin of the deck, which makes it any good. Cabal Therapy, which is great with a bunch of random shit to sacrifice, and it's just a good card to disrupt other decks. The lands, again, pretty standard. Maybe another Reflecting Pool might be kind of nice. Obviously, drawing 2 Reflecting Pools is usually pretty bad, though, especially in your opening hand. Sideboard is random tutor targets and stuff against obvious decks that they would be good against. And of course, just broad general answers like Naturalized Duress, Crypt, and then Chill against red decks. Of course, they can be a little fast. So extra help against those are pretty nice, pretty solid. But let's get into some of the actual interactions. So the big thing is Volrath Shapeshifter. Now this is the card most people aren't familiar with. Full English Breakfast was an old extended deck, and it had really kind of wonky interactions with stuff. Although it was not really like a... I guess back in the day it was described as like a judge breaker sort of deck with all the different rules interactions, but I think today's players are just a lot more savvy, a lot more... they understand how the rules work and stuff like that. So I don't think that's really true anymore. I mean, it seems pretty obvious, like pretty intuitive how most of this stuff works. For example, Volrath Shapeshifter, it's not a triggered ability. It's like a replacement effect kind of thing, like Meddling Mage, and it has the as wording. That's your big tell that is going to be different. It doesn't have the when or whatever. It doesn't have like the colons of an activated ability. So that'll tell you, it's like, okay, this thing functions like Meddling Mage. It'll behave like Meddling Mage, which it basically does. And most people play with that card. Pretty popular these days, or well, pretty much always has been. And so, say if you have a Hypnox in the graveyard, you play a Shapeshifter from your hand with the Hypnox on top. It becomes Hypnox, so they exile their hand. Pretty sweet, right? Or if you play the Shapeshifter with the Achroma as the top card, and then you attack with it, and then mid-combat before damage, of course, you survival up the Phage, and so they take the damage from the phage, and then they die, right? I mean, that's pretty obvious how that works. Nothing too weird there. So I mean, this kind of stuff is not really rocket science anymore. No one's like, wow. I mean, at least in franchise players, which most people are, when this was a big deck, it was like 99 or something, and back in extended, before survival was banned. I think it was like 98, 99. And it was just sort of like, oh, okay. I mean, obviously, this thing is its interactions with, say, something like Dreadnought, where it's like you have this in play, tutor up the Dreadnought, discard it. Obviously, the shapeshifter is already in play, so the uh, ability of the Dreadnought doesn't trigger. So yeah, I mean, pretty obvious stuff. So yeah, it could be like super cheap beater. But my favorite interaction is with Krosan Tusker. Krosan Tusker is a pretty sweet card, and I chose it over something like Yavimaya Elder because A, it's cheaper, mana intensively it's cheaper. Most draws you'll pretty much be able to cycle it on third turn or second turn or whatever to get more mana and draw a card. And of course, next turn you can drop your Shapeshifter and have it be a 3 mana 6/5 for because I've had a couple situations where it's like you'll draw a Shapeshifter and it doesn't do anything because you don't have the right cards to support it or another discard outlet or yada yada yada, right? So the interaction between Tusker and Shapeshifter is actually really sweet. And I've been thinking maybe I should play another Krosan Tusker to make the mana work even better, be a little bit more consistent, and to support the Shapeshifters even more. And I'm not a huge fan of having so many 1/0s. Some of them feel a little bit like, what's the word I'm looking for, redundant or just not used. I mean, you have to be pretty disciplined with these sort of toolbox style decks because you can just jam 30 1/0s in the deck, and then it's like, oh man, I have one answer for every situation. But there's a deck building cost, right? Your deck is less consistent, you just don't draw right, you get disrupted, you have all these random shit cards. That's the nice thing about Krosan Tusker is it fulfills different roles, whereas something like, say, Wall of Blossoms only blocks in the early game. Something like Yavimaya that gives you a lot of cards, but is a shit threat late game. Krosan Tusker, great, cycles, uncounterable, draws you a card, gets you a basic land, bam, card advantage. Late game, what does it do? Well, you can just jam it as a 7 mana 6/5, which the other cards you can't do. Say if you want to play like a Rampant Growth to fix your mana, Rampant Growth late game is garbage. Krosan Tusker, boy, that's a 7 mana 6/5, baby. So it's good to think of it as sort of like a split card. And of course, like I said, cycling Tusker on turn 2 or 3, and then next turn following up with the Vorwise Shapeshifter, that's pretty good. 3 mana 6/5s with no drawback is pretty sweet, right? Last time I checked. So, and plus, Krosan Tusker has sweet art. It's a pig. It's got some glowing eyes, and it's charging down a hill or something. Not really sure what's going on there. Anyways, so let's move on. Alright, so this deck can basically do anything. Pretty sweet. The trade-off is, though, you're slow as fuck, so that's not good. You're a little bit vulnerable to things like, Perish, obviously, or Hibernation. Not so good. But you do have a lot of inevitability, thanks to Genesis, of course, which is pretty nice, and of course just Squee plus Survival too. So you can always tutor for whatever you want, and you just keep jamming those Vorash Shapeshifters and see if that works. Yeah, there might be a couple different things I'd like to change. I kind of want to run 4 Mesmeric Fiends, because 4 Fiends plus 4 Therapy plus some number of Duress or something post-game would be pretty good against combo decks, which seems like that could be a big weakness because you're pretty dirtly, right? Maybe Mana Leaks instead of Therapies or something, or in addition. Mana Leak has always been typically the counterspell, the go-to counterspell for a lot of these, blue-green X survival decks because, well, it only costs a blue and a colorless. So that's kind of nice. Tradewind Rider might be interesting because it's an answer for anything, and kind of like a lock. But if you do that, you might want something like Queer and Ranger or something. I don't know, all sorts of stuff. Lots of different things you can do, and of course something like Wonder might be kind of nice, but probably not needed. Wonder is a little bit better if you're going for like a more mid-rangey beatdown plan kind of thing, but here we're mostly looking to combo off or just beat them to death with Crows and Tuskers, right? So yeah, there's a lot of different options for like main deck and sideboard. So it's hard to say. Even like Withered Wretch is kind of nice because it can sort of change stuff up, change the order of your graveyard. You can start exiling like stupid crap on top of your graveyard to get, a creature on top of your graveyard. And of course, Withered Wretch's main function would be to act as a piece of graveyard hate, which is really nice. It's basically a hard lock against stuff like if you're able to get it out before Reanimator or whatever other graveyard deck is able to do their stuff, because you can just pay a colorless, start exile and stuff. Pretty nice, pretty nice. So yeah, all sorts of options. Hard to say what would be the best, what will work best, but that's okay. No big deal. So yeah, that's it. That's basically it, guys. This is a sweet deck. Pretty fun, pretty interesting. You do all sorts of stuff. Hopefully you'll like it. This is just sort of my take on it, just my ideas. But I think it's pretty cool, pretty fun. So yeah, but that's it. That's it for today, guys. So thanks for stopping by, and have a great day.